Hello, Barendipitous here with the first video of my for my tabletop role-playing game Shelf, and of course, I figured what better way to begin this this playlist, this showcase of my TTRPG Shelf than Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. This is the tabletop role-playing game that I have played the most of, the one I have the most experience with. It is the one I started with for tabletop RPGs. I was introduced to it. I was properly introduced to Dungeons and Dragons by a friend back in back when we were in college and everything. And yeah, and he showed me PDFs of all his books, and I watched videos of how the game is played, and yeah, that's how I was properly introduced, and finally, you know, started buying a bunch of these. I have so many of these books. I will say, I have since, even though this is the game I'm most familiar with, I've since been getting a lot of other tabletop role playing games. So if you're, but I also want to kind of on this playlist cover my Dungeons and Dragons books first. So if you want, so basically, if you don't care about Dungeons and Dragons stuff, then feel free to kind of look on the playlist and or like basically you'll need to wait for a little while actually for that, because I'm going to go over all my D&D books, and then I'm going to go over each of the other games I have. So anyway, yeah. So I'm showing 3 books here today. These are this is the core rule books, right? Just kind of quickly thumbing through the whole thing. This is the player's handbook. They have the various species that you can play as and whatever. They have all the main classes. I love the artwork in this book as well. I mean, if you're familiar with tabletop RPGs at all, you probably are very familiar with what's in this book. But yeah, all this stuff about what you get in each class from level 1 to level 20. I'm saying some of these things for the benefit of people who might not be as familiar with Dungeons and Dragons. By the way, my very first D&D character was a Dragonborn and a bard. So a Dragonborn bard is what I started with, and it wasn't. I mean, he was a musician, but bards can also be sort of maybe literary or lyrical bards. So I made him a librarian. I gave him a sage librarian background. But yeah, this has been incredibly well used. I got this back. So 5th edition, I believe, was initially released in 2015, and I got these core rule books when the edition was fairly new. So I've had these for a while. But yeah, all the classes, various backgrounds and rules and things like that. Equipment. I'm just incredibly familiar with all of these things. All kinds of and spells and everything like that. So, but yeah, player's handbook, fantastic. I it, yeah, definitely iconic. Monster manual. This book has also probably seen maybe more use than the player's handbook. You can see the pages have basically the glue that held the pages to the cover basically fallen off. Has basically been torn apart. But yeah, I've used this book a lot because I am a dungeon master a lot more than I'm a player, and so I use a lot. So I go through and go all these classic monsters and everything like that, right? I've used so many of these creatures for various campaigns. I always make sure to use a lot of the classic ones because I have run a lot of sessions and campaigns for newer players as well. So I make sure to put in a mimic or maybe a beholder or something where it's appropriate, or other classic things. But yeah, monster manual with all of its all of the stat blocks and everything, and very well very well versed in all of that. And then, of course, the Dungeon Master's Guide. I haven't used this as much. There are a few helpful things in here. Probably the section that and there was one time when I was trying to make a Well, first of all, I appreciate all the lore that's in here and all the lore about the different like planes of existence and all that. One thing I was trying to do at one point was make a campaign that was entirely randomized, and so there's a bunch of these sort of like rolling tables where like there's just like a bunch of options for something, and you can roll a dice for it, or you can just pick one. And I rolled on every single random rolling table to try to make a campaign out of it. And that campaign didn't last very long, mainly because of schedules. And I also, if I were to do it again, I know what I would do differently. Essentially, I would probably do a little more planning to figure out to try to make everything work. But yeah, a lot of like, this is where all like a lot of the D&D lore is. I love I love this cute little drawing of all the little Modrons, the little robots and everything. Um, but yeah, once again, like the artwork in these books is just phenomenal. Really, really captures the imagination, I think. A lot of just sort of like random rules here and there, like, and so sometimes I have had trouble trying to find what I need. I've used the downtime activities a decent amount. Um, okay, yeah, so treasure, especially like, how much treasure is and things like that. But also, my favorite part of this book is all of this, like this right here, where it just has pages upon pages of magic items, and then there are also tables in the beginning of the section that kind of sort everything into like relative rarity, like choose this table if you want this or whatever. But so many cool things, and I love introducing things like the sword of sunlight, or the ion stones, or portable hole. I love that picture where it's just a black cloth, and you just lay it out and it becomes a hole, and then you put stuff in the hole, and then you just pick it up like a cloth and fold it. Really, really cool stuff. A bunch of rings, a bunch of staffs, wands, and all that kind of stuff. I love all the images and everything. Yeah, artifacts, of course. Hand and Eye of Vecna, Orb of Dragonkind. Those are legendary items. Yeah, various rules and stuff. I don't use a lot of the. I haven't used a lot of the optional stuff in here. Sometimes I do refer to one of these pages back here that talks about. So I have used the madness tables before. There's a page somewhere around here that has. Oh yeah, here we go. Futuristic weapons, because sometimes so things like pistols and rifles and whatever or revolvers are not normally in D&D, but they have all the stuff you need for that. So I have used that on occasion. I've tried using some of this stuff about like creating a monster stat block and whatever, or creating a magic item, but using their steps has been tricky for me. Here you can make a random dungeon, which I love. I think that's fantastic. All other kinds of like random tables and things like that. So and I could go on and on and on about how much I've used all these books, and I've been a dungeon master and a game master for basically about going on 7 years at this point. Yeah, I was introduced to D&D about 6 or 7 years ago, and I was a dungeon master in one of my very first campaigns, and I've never looked back. I love being a dungeon master. I love basically helping people have fun, and teaching people the game. I've taught my family how to play this game, and I have a lot of books, as you will see, a lot of D&D books. I've run a lot of like not just homebrew adventures, but especially pre-written adventures, and yeah. As of the recording of this video, I know that one D&D or 2024 Dungeons Fifth Edition will be coming out, which I have a lot of thoughts about what Wizards of the Coast has been doing to D&D over 2023, but I don't know if I will get the updated books. I might, I probably will, I'm not sure, but if nothing else, I do have these. Like this is the very first tabletop role playing game I ever played, so it'll always have a special place in my heart. Even as I'm sort of branching out into other games these days. But yeah, my old yeah, I love having these. Just there may become a time where I need to like basically replace these. Maybe that's when I'll get like new the updated books next year or in 2024 or something like that. I don't know, but I love having these. And it's just nice to have the books. Like I can look up I can look up any like D&D 5th edition information I want. Basically, like, on the internet, I can find various like places and sources to help me with any question I want. But I always just like having the physical books if I can. If I can reasonably afford getting physical books, I will. So anyway, yeah, just wanted to show that I have these three things. They are Yeah, they're definitely just the beginning of a very, very long shelf of D&D books. So, yeah, thank you very much for watching, and until next time, all the best.